Hi guys, I'm here tonight to work with you on brainstorming some different ideas about the skateboard deck design competition. So you've watched the PowerPoint at this point, and you are going to be coming up with some ideas of what kind of skateboard decks you would like to design. You're going to each be making at least three rough drafts. So I thought we might start with some brainstorming and see if we can come up with some ideas for what kind of things you might like to draw. You might already have some ideas that are just like bubbling away in your head and want to get those down right away. Um, if you've got maybe three great ideas, that's awesome. Um, Here's some other ways that maybe you could get into the mindset of thinking about what you'd like to draw. So one way, of course, to think about brainstorming for what you want to draw for this competition is looking at other work and just kind of looking at things that inspire you, that you might sort of create your own version of or use as a jumping off point. All artists look at each other's work and are inspired by it. You, of course, want to make something that is unique, something that is your own. But there are plenty of skateboard designs that have been designed by very, very talented people out there. Great places to start looking. Um, Another way you can think about it is, say you've looked at a lot of work. And this is kind of, where maybe a business perspective might come in. If you're an illustrator, and you're working for a company, maybe one of the things you do when you look at all the other designs that are out there right now, you look for the things that you don't see, that you think there might be a need for or a market for. So for me, when I look at skateboards, one of the things that I don't see as much are pastel colors, like softer, kind of sweeter styles. I see lots of bold color, lots of sort of angular forms, but not so much that sort of softer style color. And I think it would be really interesting to see, like, if a skateboard would do well with pastel colors. So that's one thing that I don't see that I think might be an interesting potential design. And that might fill a gap in like what is currently available in the market and thus become very popular and take off. So let's see. You might think of people who specific people who might want a skateboard deck, and like what might you design for them. I for some reason started thinking about people from Asheville. So there's lots of people from Asheville, North Carolina that have lived there their whole lives, but there's also a lot of people who came from big cities, who've moved, to a more rural area, and so they're combining. Maybe there's, in my mind, I thought, well, maybe there's some people that are accustomed to skateboarding in skateboard parks, like in cities, and who want to come to that rural area and celebrate both aspects of their life. So maybe something that maybe some designs that would be for sort of people who move to the country, like, talking about sort of country life, but on a sort of maybe format of a skateboard, which could, I guess, be construed as something that you're more likely to find in the life of a city or a downtown. Even here in Chattanooga, you see more people skateboarding downtown, although I wouldn't say that we're like a major metropolitan area like Atlanta. We certainly do have a downtown. That's where most people tend to skate. So I thought those might be a good group of people. So people who are transplants from the city to the country, what would a skateboard design for them look like? You might look at popular trends. So what are the popular trends today? I said that one trend I've never seen a skateboard design for, and it made me really curious, was cottagecore. So this sort of really fantasy, country living, sort of doily situation that is cottagecore, sort of a fantasy country life. design. So I thought, wow, gee, that would be a really weird thing to see on a skateboard. But you know what? There's got to be people out there who sort of want to live that cottagecore lifestyle and also want to skateboard. So, something like this, could be risky from a design perspective, but you might also, hit, an unexpected vector of people who might really appreciate a skateboard. So I thought maybe kawaii would be a popular trend. So Japanese kind of cute animation style. So I might try a kawaii design. Some other themes I thought might be funny. It seemed obvious to go with like fast animals. Maybe you could do a cheetah design or a rabbit or a greyhound or a horse, motif in your skateboard design. You could also, I don't know, it might be more interesting even to do slow animals. So a skateboard with a turtle, a snail, a sloth, because skateboards are intended to let people go fast. So what would happen if you put the slowest animals ever on your skateboard design? How would that, it seems like it would be like almost like a visual pun. So I'm interested in this idea. And I really love drawing snails. I think they're super cute. And I think a lot of people actually like sloths right now. Sloths are kind of on trend. Let's see. So those are some ideas that I had about what might be interesting. And, when I'm brainstorming like this, I like to start out like writing like this because writing doesn't take very long. So I write down my thoughts and then I start trying to come up with the visuals behind that. Some other things I said that I needed to think about, just as I'm coming up with my designs, is that the skateboard is a really, really weird format. It could be like really long and short if you're making a horizontal design, or it could be really, really narrow and tall if you're making a vertical design. It also has those curved edges. So, I've got like a bunch of different ideas here, but I'm going to need to take into account also the strange format that is the skateboard design. So one way to kind of help sort of plan for that skateboard format is to work on some thumbnails. And so there's a printable blank thumbnail design sheet that gives you just blank templates for the skateboards that you can print off of Canvas. So I've done that here on the next page, and I'll show you my kind of prototype designs. This is my first one. So my woodland gnomes. So you can see here's a little gnome, and it's got mushroom, and it's got acorn, little flowers, strawberry, a frog print, a gnome riding a squirrel, some gnomes sleeping amongst the mushrooms. And over to the right, and I didn't color in the design, but over to the right, I did a sampling of my color palette. So I tried to figure out, okay, basically with the thumbnail, I've got to move it along. I've got to, get some stuff down on paper, but I can't take forever on this. So I wanted to do my sketch. I might color part of it. I definitely want to make sure I kind of document what I'm thinking for my colors. But this is not a final draft. It's small. It's meant to be quick. Especially if I'm struggling for time, I might do something like this where I'm just laying out a color layout and not worry with coloring it all in. I think, if you're really trying to figure out something like contrast, like are my reds gonna, be, are they gonna stand out enough against the green that I'm thinking of? That's gonna be a really good place, even at this early stage to actually lay some color into your design. So, let's see. I tried to create movement in this design, like with the mushrooms, and I'm hoping that these little bits of red, that are the mushroom caps, are going to lead your eye through the composition. I know I'm going to get a good amount of contrast with the white stems of the mushrooms and the white spots on the mushrooms to the red. I hope also the white stems, well, I know the white stems are going to contrast really well with the green. I'm not so sure right now about the green and the red. I feel like they're obviously very different hues, but they're, the red is lighter, a bit lighter than the green. But when I look at these two colors and I kind of squint my eyes, like there's not a lot of contrast between the value of these two colors. So this is like, for some reason in my mind, like this is like that classic mushroom cap red. So I want to have this. I might go with a lighter value green. So something a little bit lighter just to give a little more contrast. Or, I could take it the other direction and go with a darker value green and bump up the contrast that way. I do have some browns for the squirrel. This isn't going to be, all the colors. I might have to, like, for instance, with the squirrel, I've got one brown here. Maybe this is the brown for my squirrel, but, I probably am going to want to add some depth with some shading. So I'm probably going to have some slight variation within that color. But this is going to give me a gist of, like, kind of what I want to do with my color. And this would be a good way for, a client to see what you wanted to do, too, and get a good idea of it. Okay, so that's my woodland gnomes. I was thinking this might be for the people who are transplants from the city. It's sort of, a funky design. It's not, it feels like illustration, and sort of poppy, but it also has like sort of the country vibes with the gnomes and the mushrooms, kind of a woodland sort of theme. But in a way that's kind of poppy and a little fun, so it keeps it fun and light. So I thought maybe that might be something that someone who had moved from the city to a place like Asheville, who's new country kind of transplant, might like for a skateboard. So next over I've got my kawaii style skateboard. I combined with this the kawaii style, which is the sort of Japanese cutesy style. I made the skateboard all different kinds of foods. So all different kinds of foods done in this kawaii style. I also used, you can see, like a kind of pastel color palette. I'm using, something like this is a good way to sample out your materials too. Like I've got my markers. These are my alcohol markers. And I can see with these, I can kind of get the colors I want, but maybe I want them to be a little bit more like soft and pastel. So maybe for this particular project, these are not the colors. This is not the material I want to use. Maybe I want to use colored pencil so I can like more slowly and softly render the color I want. Or maybe I want to use watercolor so I can get more variety, light of tints and lightness out of my watercolor washes, because alcohol pens, you kind of, what you see is what you get out of those. And so last but not least, I've got my cottagecore skateboard. I'm super excited about this because cottagecore is really huge all over Instagram and stuff like that. So it's like a really kind of like teapot that is flowing down tea into a sweet little teacup, and then all around the teapot and the little bit of tea that's flowing down, there's like these big flowers. I think of them almost like peonies or maybe even roses. Like it feels very kind of English garden to me. I picked really soft sort of again like kind of pastel-y colors for this. I'm pretty happy with this color palette. I would say maybe the green is a little bit too sharp. I want something maybe just a little bit more pastel in the green. I do like the variety of pinks, maybe with touches of yellow in the flowers. Again, the tea, I have a nice color here, but I'll probably either want to highlight it with some lighter browns or find some ways to deepen it with some deeper browns. I feel like I could use maybe one more color for the background, maybe something a little bit more muted, maybe something cool, since I'm going to have so many, not everything, like a lot of the colors you can see with the exception of the green are pretty warm. It might be nice to have something cool for the background. Maybe like a really like subtle blue-gray that's going to sit there behind everything and not be too obtrusive. So anyway, that's my cottage core design. So again, I use the color sampling here. This helped me to kind of get a feeling for what my markers were capable of, and also to lay out a color palette. I can think actively here about, do I like these colors or do I not, before I commit to them in my final draft. Or even like, do I like these materials or not? I think, again, really look at like the format of these templates. I did all vertical, but you know, you can do a horizontal design. It's really challenging because it's a very tall, skinny format. You need to think like, what is going to look good in that vertical space? How can I move the eye up the space using movement, using little bits of repetition that are going to keep my eye moving up. You know, even something like this that is an all-over design that kind of goes from edge to edge, top to bottom. Like, you know, how can I use maybe color to keep my eye moving around that whole space? So yeah, I will look forward to seeing what you guys come up with for your designs. Happy brainstorming.